BMRforum.com, BMRodds.com. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the lobby, episode 80. It is Sammy and Donnie here. Bobby is still enjoying his Alaskan vacation on the cruise. Appreciate all the pictures, the food pictures, all the mountain pictures, the beautiful views out there. Can't wait to see you back next week, but going strong. Again, we got Sammy and Donnie. How you doing this afternoon, Donnie?
Feeling good, ready to go. Baseballed up for today. Could it be the last night I watched my Philadelphia Phillies for the 2024 season? I hope not. And also Sammy's Yanks going out there to Kansas City, tied up in a pivotal game number 3. So we got good baseball action. We got good NFL action, college football action. It's great stuff, man. Enjoying it.
And of course, the NHL is back. I got to enjoy the NHL back yesterday on ESPN. And of course, we got the Rangers coming up. So I'm excited that the Rangers are back. But yeah, you hit the nail right on the head with baseball. I think this was the first time ever that all 4 series were 1-1 after 2 games. Yeah. So tonight you got 2 playoff matchups in the NL, deciding games, like you said, the AL, both on their game 3. What do you got for this afternoon?
Yeah, you know what's funny about that, too, because as like a fan, just say if you weren't a fan of the teams that are left, like I usually just hope for, other than my betting tickets, every game goes like the max. Like all of them go the series of 5. Next round, they all go 7. World Series goes 7. Now, for your own team, right? You're like, hey, sweep it. I don't give a damn about what the ratings will be. I just want my team to advance. So it is interesting today. I did like Cleveland today a little bit in their game. They're down 2-0, but I didn't have a wager on it. It was close, -115, -116, depending where you're shopping at. Phillies and Mets. Look, I love the Phillies, and I do have a same-game parlay with just a couple of Mets in there to get a base hit, and I think that's going to happen. Mark Vientos and also Jose Iglesias, I think, makes some sense. I'm rooting for the Phillies, but I don't have a really good feel for saying, outside of being a fan, Sammy, that they're going to win this game. If you can't score runs in the first 5 innings and you constantly are playing from behind, that's a recipe for disaster. The Mets don't even have a great pitching staff. The Phillies just drew dead at the plate, as I like to say, in this series, which happens to a lot of baseball teams. The Dodgers, I think, are going to get knocked out tonight. So my Phillies, I'm rooting for them. But to be honest, I'm not so sure they can win that game. 7:08 tonight, New York Yankees, Kansas City. Seth Lugo's a good pitcher. We don't know what we're going to get out of Clark Schmidt. Look at that price, Sammy. -116 on the Yankees on the road. That is going to be a nip-and-tuck game. The one thing I do like in that game, it's 8 as a total across the board. I don't know if we get the 9 runs tonight in Kansas City. It just feels like it's such a pivotal game where the winner's going to take a commanding series lead. I don't think we get the 9 runs, so I'll take the under 8. Late night, give me San Diego. -136, -135, wherever it's out there. San Diego puts away the Dodgers tonight, and it's not a surprise for me. I said before the series started, the Padres were the better team. They're going to win this series, Sammy. I think they wrap it up tonight.
Yeah, I do agree with you on the Padres, and you have mentioned it for the last month, basically, that you like the Padres in the NL for all your future bets. The Yankees at a short price, how do you not take them at -116? Will the real Aaron Judge please show up?
Yes, where is he?
It's, in the playoffs, I think he leads the history for the most strikeouts in reference to in the playoffs per 200, minimum batting average. And then in reference to home runs, it's one or the other. This is where the Yankees need to find the small ball, because that's what wins playoff games. It's not the long ball, it's the small ball. And then in reference to the Phillies and the Mets, both of those teams just seem to feed off the home crowd. All their momentum, all their big-time swingers seem to perform better at home, which is why I kind of think the Mets have the edge. If the Phillies can squeak out the win, I definitely think that the Phillies will win at home. But, Bryce Harper is the perfect example. He had a monster home run in game 1. And then you look at yesterday, they were, 2 on and no out, and he struck out on 3 straight pitches where he pretty much fanned at all 3 of them. He wasn't even close on them. I think in that same scenario at home, he's going to crank a home run or get a big double down the line. But definitely exciting for baseball, and we'll see what happens there. You potentially have 2 game 4s tomorrow for the AL, and then game 5s would be on Friday for the National League. And then I think, the next round, the divisional or the conference starts on Sunday or Monday of next week?
Sunday. Yeah, I think it's because I remember somebody saying, because the Eagles are home this weekend, they would have a Phillies and a home Eagles game in the same day. So I do believe at least the National League, Sammy, gets going on Sunday night.
Nice. So a quick out over there, and then the World Series will start in late October. In reference to some other sports we got here, of course, we talk tennis. The tennis is winding down on the season. We only got a month left. The women's are in their last Master 1000. They're both in China right now. The men are in Shanghai. The women are in Wuhan. Obviously, complete opposite of the East Coast schedule. They are 12 hours ahead. So the first match of the night is actually at midnight. So I do pick up a little bit in the morning, and I do see a little bit of the matchups, the last match of the day, but the majority is overnight, which stinks, but it is what it is. The WTA finals Finals is the first week of November. The men's ATP Finals is the second week in November. And then you got 6 weeks off. It's tough for me. I am currently sitting at plus 59 units. I've been flirting around that 60 unit mark for the last month or so, but definitely my favorite sport. That sport pays for some of the other sports and the other action I do. So that month of December off definitely pains me, but excited to bring it back to Australia in the beginning of beginning of January. Downey, I know I pretty much lead the tennis conversation. Do you watch any of it? Follow a little bit at all?
No, the only time I ever pay attention, to be honest, is when the majors come up, which I'm probably like most people. Same thing with the PGA Tour. Am I watching week to week? No, I'm not. But I'm watching on the majors. I'm betting on the majors. That's what keeps my interest here. When do the big tournaments, Sammy, start back up here? Like, when should we be paying? Because obviously, the hardcore gambler, the hardcore tennis lover is going to watch each and every time they play. And by the way, I saw Tiafoe go off, I guess, on a referee just yesterday. So he was pretty advantageous in saying, like, just not happy with that. But when do the big tournaments get going that we got to pay attention to?
So technically this week is a big tournament. It's a Masters 1000. So the Grand Slams are worth 2,000 points. So the Master Thousands is the next step down. Then your regular week to week are smaller 250 level and then some 500 level. But technically this is the big one. And then you got January when the Australian Open comes back. And then more for the casual fans, you're really looking at March, which is where they're in Florida and they're in Miami and Indian Wells in California. So that's more of the prime time. And then of course the summer, when they're in Cincinnati and DC and the US Open in New York City. So for the casuals, you're looking in March and you're looking in, July, August time for our prime time. Speaking of prime time, we got college football. Remember last week we were talking about how Alabama takes over Georgia with that dominant win, that epic top matchup of the year. And then this week they come in as a 24-point favorite and get beat by Vanderbilt. Tennessee, number 4 in the country, 14-point favorite. They go down to Arkansas. But we did talk about Clemson last week, and they did beat up Florida State as expected. We got the new number 1 in the nation, Archie Manning-led Texas Longhorns. So in a wild last Saturday, Donnie, how did it fare for you?
Here's what I love about college football. And I'm going to continue to say this, Andy. Before the season started, I thought we'd get the most exciting season in college football history because more games are going to be more meaningful down the stretch with the advent of the 12-team college football playoff. And it's exactly what we're getting. Like usually, you'd watch the game, like, okay, Georgia and Alabama, the loser's probably not going to make the playoff. Their season is over in the last week of September. That's not the case anymore. And also, if you take a look at Alabama losing to Vanderbilt, you can wipe their season off. There's no shot they can make a college football playoff. Yes, they can still do it. This is what I love. And you're going to see more elimination style games this week where maybe 2 teams are undefeated and they lose. They can still make the college football playoff. It's why I love it. But I don't care. You can have all the letdowns you want in the world, Sammy. There's no way, shape, or form. Alabama's won 24 straight games against Vanderbilt. It should be 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. That was as shocking as it comes because I always like to say, if you didn't watch college football ever, you had a friend that came over, Sammy, I have no idea about college football, and you go, good. Watch this Vanderbilt-Alabama game with me. I'm not going to tell you any details. You go, man, Vanderbilt, number 1 team in the country. They look really good, don't they? And like, no. Alabama was number 1. Wait a second. Vanderbilt actually looked better than them all 4 quarters here. That's how wild the season has been. I never saw that coming. And it wasn't even, Sammy, a fluke victory. They were just better than Alabama. That's the crazy part.
Now, going into this week, you got 2 dominant matchups that are leading the headlines. Of course, you got Mississippi versus LSU, which is a top 15 matchup, 9 versus 13. Mississippi is small favorite. But the marquee matchup, top 3 matchup, you got Ohio State going in to Oregon as a small favorite, the 2 versus the 3. Ohio State minus 3.5, the over-under sitting at 52. What do you got for this weekend?
That's such an interesting game because, and also I still can't get over it yet. Like that's a Big Ten matchup. Like, wait a second, Ohio State, Oregon's a Big Ten matchup. That's usually just a non-conference Titanic battle. It's like, okay, let's see who wins this. Then we'll get back to our conference. This is going to go a long way to determine who's going to win the Big Ten, because if you win this game, you get the tie-breaking advantage over the other team. But also, as I just stated, 2 top 5 teams, Sammy. If Ohio State loses, they can still wake up on Sunday morning and go, we have a legitimate chance to win the national championship. The same exact thing can be said for Oregon. That's what I love it. And the argument coming into this, well, college football regular season, Sammy, is not going to matter. Nobody's going to watch Ohio State, Oregon at 7:30 in a top 5 battle. We're all going to watch it. And then the team that loses still has a chance to win. For me, I always like to lean on the defense. Ohio State has an incredible defense. I think they can pull this out. But when we look at that number, 3s, 3.5s in the market. That is huge. Like if Ohio State around game time, if you haven't bet it, it's still 3. I would take Ohio State, but this is going to be a great game, realizing Oregon is one of the best home field advantages in football. It's loud as all get out. It's a great game, but I'm going to go with the defense, and I'm going to take Ohio State.
Very nice. This is the game for me that definitely, like you said, 7:30 East Coast, even though I'm working, it's prime time for me. I'm not going to make any pre-match bet, but it's definitely one that you're going to live bet as you watch that action. That's definitely what I like doing some of these big matchups too. But we got some Saturday action, which of course leads into Sunday, which leads into London, 9:30. But before we get into week 6, let's recover week 5 and go over that. I'm going to pat myself a little bit on the back. I just got paid. I came in 5th place last week.
Good for you, man.
I got 23 points. I went 5-2. I lost my number 1 and my number 4, which is, if you're going to lose, that's how you do it. I won my 7-6-5. But shout out to me, 23, Crazy Croaks 23, and Go Bucks. You got RWD Biaco at 24 and Black China. And then a two-way tie for first place, DJP and Topher 1680 with 27. So congrats to them. Overall leaderboard, it's actually the same. You got Lapenti and DH Ristov. They went from 81 to 101. So both of them were tied for first last week and tied for first this week. 20 points to them last week. DJP moved from 5th to 3rd. Curious stayed at 4th, and CP went from 3rd to 5th. So you got 101, 98, 96, 93. Donnie, I see you sitting at 19 with 77. And in my good week with 23 points, I went from 80th to 46th, and I'm only 10 points behind 19th. So still, we're only 5 weeks in. There's still 13 weeks to go. A lot of time to make up, and weekly prizes. So even if you're not in the running, I just got $50. I literally just got paid before the episode started. So, there's real money on the line. All you need is 1 week, and earn yourself some money. Donnie, how was your week 5?
Yeah, that's what, it's fun. I do videos every day for Bookmakers Review. We're having a pretty good run right now, but each video, like I talk about the football contest, like, hey, what's going on at BMR? $20,000 up for grabs. And I think the single thing that people get afraid of, well, why would I get in a contest that started in September? It's October. It's what Sandy said. It's weekly prizes. Maybe you can't win it for the entire season, but who's to say that you jump in a free contest and go, oh, wow, I had a good week. I went unbeaten. They'll send me a couple $100. Who doesn't want that here? Get involved in these things. They're so easy, so much fun. And if they take 5 minutes out of your life to pick your games, cheer them on Sunday. If you lose, so what? If you win that week, you get paid. That's it. You wake up with $50 in your account here. Who doesn't want that? That's lunch, that's dinner, that's relaxation money for the rest of the week. Even though it started in September, we go right through to January. Get involved, man. Get involved.
100%. Who doesn't like free money to win?
Exactly.
Or free contest to win real money. I mean, that's the name of the game. That's why we're on this degenerate forum. That's why you should be in the action. But in between week 5 and weeks in, we got a couple big storylines here. Now, my hatred for Deshaun Watson's been notorious for the last 2 years. But his performance on the field is also speaking for itself. He's averaging 170 yards a game. He's got 5 touchdowns, 6 turnovers. He's 1-4. Is it time to bench him for Jameis?
It is. It actually is time to bench him. And let's get around like how this actually all went down. Like the teams that need quarterbacks get extremely desperate. He's got 55 lawsuits against him, whatever it is, suspension from the NFL coming, and Cleveland gave him the biggest guaranteed contract in the history of the NFL. So if we can't really equate to making that much money, but he'd be like Sammy. He's on the car lot, and the GM comes to him, Sam, over the next 5 years, I am going to pay you more than any other car salesman in the history of the United States, whether you sell a single car or not. Now, you have some level of pride saying, I want to live up to my contract, be happy and selling cars and doing all this. Or, Sam, you can walk around the lot and be like, I just don't have it today. Sam, you only had 3 car sales last night. What happened? Well, I'm going to get paid more than anybody else, so I'll try a little bit harder next month. That's what you're getting out of Deshaun Watson now. When he goes home at night, the fans are upset. You know when he lays down, he goes, it doesn't even matter what happens, Sam. I'm going to make over $250 million on this contract, whether I play good or not. And he has been absolutely terrible. So when you move it forward, too, yes, he deserves to be benched, but it's hard to tell your ownership group. We owe the guy like $100+ million still guaranteed. I'm going to sit him down. But if you want to save the season and the locker room, if he's an issue, you owe it to your team to sit him down. What's the worst thing that happens in Philadelphia? They put Jameis Williamson, and they get beaten. Cleveland. Jameis. What's his? Yes, man. Williamson, my goodness. Yeah, Jameis, you put him in, they lose. You're going to lose anyway at this point. So tough seeing in Cleveland, but I absolutely 1,000% would bench him just for saving the team. And if it doesn't work, put him back in there. It's no big deal.
It's also a pride thing, too, just to say, hey, just because we're paying your top star, you still have to perform. But I'm sure they're trying to find a way to weasel out of that contract, but maybe some of the lawsuits in there, too. And then the other major storyline coming from the Jets, Robert Saleh getting fired only after week 5. Obviously, there's some issues between him and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had 3 interceptions, which definitely cost him the game yesterday in London. Was it the play calling? Was it the head coaching? Was it Aaron Rodgers? I'm just surprised. Obviously they're not performing to what they wanted to. They're 2-3 now. Bad loss to Denver. They lost to a Vikings team that's 5-0 and their offense is rolling. Now, granted, their defense last week in the Jets after quarter 1 stopped Minnesota. So Minnesota didn't really do too much to beat them. It was the mistakes of Rodgers, but I still think week 5, that's so early to get rid of them. Donnie, your thoughts?
Yeah, also, it's about that too. 7 points was given up directly by Aaron Rodgers on a pick-6 interception. So that defense has been phenomenal. Here's the tough part about it, Sam, because you're right. Last year, all we kept saying was, boy, if the Jets can get an average quarterback, they can probably make the playoffs. They didn't make the playoffs because why? They didn't have an average quarterback. Oh, look, Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Is he going to be MVP level? Don't even need him to be. Just be a solid quarterback, and they're going to stack up victories, which means they would have beat the Denver Broncos, and they would have beat Minnesota here. The issue was never the defense, which is what Robert Saleh is the defensive head coach. Albrick is the defensive coordinator. He gets elevated. But something has to happen. You're not going to cut Aaron Rodgers and ruin your salary cap. You're not going to cut your best football player to prove a point here. The coach is the only way to try to spark the season. But I don't know what good it does, because you're right. Last week, just if you watch one football game of the Jets, if they didn't have Aaron Rodgers, they beat the Minnesota Vikings. So Aaron Rodgers getting his coaches fired because he can't actually leave town. But I do like this, Sammy, because now you look at the Jets and you say, there is no more finger pointing. If they lose and they're not a good football team, it's Aaron Rodgers, and we knew that all along. So he has a chance to save face and go on a run and be like, hey, man, you guys know it wasn't me. It was always Robert Saleh there was the issue behind us not winning football games. Now there's no more excuses, and the only excuse you need is Aaron Rodgers. Play better football, man. That's it.
And of course, it's almost like he's setting himself up for this big stage. He gets his coach fired, and when's the next game? Monday Night Football, national TV game. Is it going to be his revenge game, or is he going to be that national embarrassment, going into it? But before Monday night, we got Thursday Night Football. We got London game. Do you got any action for Thursday? Any action for Sunday morning?
Yeah, there's some pretty good games coming up, too, because this is a big one. Like, you normally would look at the 49ers like, okay, they're probably going to win the division after like 5 or 6 games because everybody else can't compete with them. After that loss last week, they dropped to under 500 and go on the road in one of the tougher home field environments in football in Seattle. Now, boy, did Seattle let one get away. They beat the lowly Giants last week without their best football players. They're sitting pretty. And then if they beat the 49ers, they can already put a stranglehold on the division. But they didn't. And they're underdogs here at 3.5. Typically, Sammy, I lean towards the home teams on Thursday Night Football. But I just figured, I think the San Francisco 49ers are going to be out for blood in this game. They had so many red zone opportunities, too many turnovers, too many incomplete passes, didn't have a kicker that could have got them a couple points, because as you see that final score, it was really close. I think San Francisco is going to be able to pull this one out. And then you take a look at the London game. Jacksonville finally got a victory. It's a neutral site. But also, how about for Chicago? Caleb Williams, that welcome to the NFL. Give me a big game here. Let me put the team on my back and really let it rip. I was impressed by him last week. But also keep in mind, heavy public presence this week on Chicago. The look-ahead line was Jacksonville actually as a slight favorite. Now it's the Chicago Bears. I like the over 44.5 overseas in that game on Sunday morning, Sammy.
Yeah, you could definitely see a lot of points in that game just based on some two good offenses, and then the defense is really not performing. And the Bears could go 4-2 with a win over there, which would be pretty exciting. But the offense is starting to perform, and DJ Moore is starting to perform like they expected him to, and Caleb Williams is finally starting to find his form over there. Might be a little bit square, but you're kind of following the line and going with the Bears -2. In reference to tomorrow's night game, it's almost like an identity game. A lot of these teams, you can talk 5, 6, 7. Who are the real team, and are they going to perform and stand up? San Fran could easily be 4-1, and they're 2-3. And Seattle is 3-0, and now they're 2 straight losses, and now they're 3-2. So an important game, especially a division game. This is a game that I'm probably not touching pregame, and I'll try and find a line on a live bet or maybe a second half line or maybe just a player prop, look for something like that. But definitely nothing I like. That's a sketchy line, 3.5. It's definitely leaning towards the home team, the underdog, with that hook, especially with the backdoor cover. But, with the analytics of the game, you could be down by 10. They score a touchdown. Then they go for 2, which ruins the line, just the stupid analytics on that. And I always fear for that, too, on the underdog. But the rest of Sunday and Monday night, Donnie, what's the rest of your 7 looking like?
Yeah, let's take a look at it here. Green Bay, I'm going to take a -5.5 at home against Arizona. I do like the fact that Arizona's shown some chippiness on the season. I like the fact that Arizona went on the road last week and beat the 49ers. I also like that you saw 2 games ago, Jordan Love coming back, Sammy, struggled a little bit with interceptions early, sort of caught fire late, but it was too late. Thought he had a pretty good game outside of that one dumb interception that he threw, pulled away with the victory. I think they come home, and I always like to say this. If I think Green Bay is going to win that football game, it's going to be by more than 5.5 points, because if it was a 3-point game, I'd never would pick this. I think Green Bay is going to be on my list this weekend and covering the 5.5 at home against Arizona. Game number 2. Now, this one is a higher line. It's Philadelphia. Now, I don't really bet because, I want to see the Philadelphia Eagles win that football game. You got to line up what's actually going on. 3 straight road games for the Cleveland Browns. They don't look good at all. Deshaun Watson's on the verge of, I guess, like a mutiny if he plays terrible, if he gets pulled or not. The Philadelphia Eagles, over the past couple weeks, playing without A.J. Brown, he'll be back. Playing without Devontae Smith, he'll be back. Playing without Lane Johnson, he looks to be back this weekend. This is a statement game for the Philadelphia Eagles and a double-digit game. I'm going to look forward to them carrying the 8.5-point spread. I'm going to take how about this one? I'm going to take the Chargers. Rested and ready for those Denver Broncos. I love what the Broncos have been doing. They've been a surprise. You're now starting to see Bo Nix play better football, but just something about Jim Harbaugh and looking at that line where they're favored by 2.5 points, not getting 2.5 points. I'm going to bleed with that line here and go with the Chargers. Also, another shocker. The Pittsburgh Steelers seem like they're about to have an issue at quarterback, and it's not really Justin Fields' fault. The defense has really been the problem the past 2 weeks. Justin Fields left the football game on Sunday Night Football, Sammy, with the lead. The defense couldn't hold it. The Dallas Cowboys pick up that victory. I'm going to take Vegas with a new starting quarterback and Aiden O'Connell getting the 2.5 points at home over the Pittsburgh Steelers, and maybe we see Russ make an introduction to the NFL this year with the Pittsburgh Steelers in that game, and you're going to like this one. Dallas at home, getting more than a field goal. I love Detroit. Don't get me wrong. I love Detroit. But this is one of those games where you saw the mettle, you saw the toughness last week of Dallas. Sure, they're going to be without a lot of key playmakers as they were last week. I thought that was one of the more impressive performances of the Dallas Cowboys over the past 3 to 4 years. I had that as a stone cold loss, and they pulled that out. That's a good victory for them. And also, I'm going to take the Giants at home. Give me the 3.5 points. That team's going to fight you right now. Cincinnati's the worst defense in the NFL. If the Giants could move the football in Seattle without Malik Neighbors, who's probably going to come back this week, maybe even Singletary, and maybe Danny Dimes getting a little bit more confidence, give me the 3.5. And then also, Monday Night Football. I'm going to do it, man. I'm taking the Jets getting 2.5 points at home. Then that's probably going to be a 1 bet for me, but I need to take that. I need to see what the Jets have. I need to see that boost once they fire their coach, and that fire's there. I'll take the Jets.
Nice. Kind of working it backwards. I definitely like that too.
Yeah.
It's, again, it might be a square pick. It might be the obvious pick to go with the team that's in turmoil right now against Buffalo and that high-powered offense. But if Aaron Rodgers is running the offense and wants to run the team, let's put him in charge and let him shine, or let's start fading them for the rest of the year. But this is that game, because if they're 2-4, it's only going to get worse for them. But to start off on Sunday, I like Tampa Bay -3.5 at New Orleans. This is another identity game for me. Tampa Bay in their 3 wins have been great, and their 2 losses have been horrible. New Orleans, though, after their first 2 games where they scored 47 and 44, now their offense can't produce anything, scoring 12, 24, and 13. So just simply based off the offense, Tampa Bay should be the better team in here. And if they perform like they have been in their 3 wins, they think I should get that road win in that division. I like Houston -7 over New England. Drake May is going to be taking the quarterback first game as a rookie. Houston is still the best team, one of the best teams in the AFC, 4-1. They did lose Nico Collins, but they still got a high-powered offense, and I think they're going to take advantage. New England can't perform. I mean, they barely put up numbers against Miami last week. Drake May in there. I think Houston's just going to put up too many points for New England in there. I like Washington against Baltimore and what could be one of the best matchups of the week. Listen, Baltimore can put up points, but so can Washington. And in reference to the defense, the Baltimore defense, they gave up 40-plus points last week against Cincinnati. So somehow won that game in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're gonna not be able to stop that Jaden Daniels offense, potential rookie of the year, there's no way for me to think that Washington can't not cover the 6.5, but maybe outright win. Maybe not that much. I definitely think that Baltimore should win that game, but I covering that 6.5, I definitely love Washington there.
Yeah.
And then, like you mentioned, I like Dallas, of course, square play of the day. I'm going to take the Cowboys against Detroit, but it's a big hook number. You got to love a 3.5 team at home, especially with that momentum winning on the road in Sunday Night Football. And then, of course, Monday night, going to be taking the Jets over Buffalo. And so far, not ranked them, but that's my 7. And then, of course, we'll rank them as I get a little bit more confidence looking into it on Sunday.
Yeah.
But Donnie, anything else going into the weekend?
I'm ready. Here's what I want for the weekend, Sammy. Both the Eagles and the Phillies to be playing on Sunday. I know for sure one team is going to play. I just don't know for the other is going to play. But a great day of baseball. The last day, Sammy, of 4 baseball games for the season. Hopefully we get some bangers tonight, which includes me rooting on the Phillies, you rooting on the Yankees. It feels so much better when your team wins. You go to bed, wake up like, okay, now we're back in command of the series. So let's see what happens today.
Let's do it. Let's have an action-packed Wednesday. Good luck, and we'll see you next week.
Later.